How do, as individuals, as organizations, ward off despair, make it real? Well, I've sort of teased out 4 things that I think one can see in these movements. The first is anger. It may sound like an odd way to get into an upbeat, positive account of NGO energy, but frankly, without anger, I can't see anything very much happening. And I remain, I don't know where you are on this, I remain utterly startled at the relatively low levels of anger out there in society today. So there I was today, and I was just talking about this before, reading The Guardian, discovering that there is now a new acronym in our lives called BAB, bonuses are back. But there's a sense out there in the city, some of you I know are from it, don't take this person. There's a sense out there that, hey, folks, it was bad for a while, but we're through that period now, and we're okay, we're comfortable again, and actually, governments desperately need us to ratchet up the totally, utterly unsustainable, immoral profits, because if we don't, they can't make their balance sheets work. If we don't, they can't fill the holes in our pension funds. If we don't, they can't keep their AAA rating from rating agencies. So actually, in a funny kind of way, they need us to be out there doing exactly the same lunatic, irresponsible stuff that we did before the crash. They're not going to say that in public because that wouldn't sound good. But why do you think the government is apparently completely happy about the new chief executive of the Royal Bank of Stock pocketing a neat 15 million as his new remuneration package? Because the government wants to get RBS off its hands as fast as it possibly can and back into rampant crazy profitability. That's the deal. I am so angry about that, as you can tell. I just want to speak with rage at this stuff. And I just don't understand why more people aren't more angry. And that's only about the financial crisis. It seems to me a bit strange that we're not just a touch angry about what is being done in our name to destroy the foundations that make life on Earth possible. We're talking here about a choice, a moment in the trajectory of humankind, which either takes us down one route towards this apocalypse I've been quietly alluding to this evening, or takes us down another route, where at least there is a prospect of something halfway decent for most of humankind. We're talking about that, and we're not really very angry about it. I was at Loughborough University yesterday, meeting people there, talking to the Students' Union. And the most depressing thing of all was the Students' Union representatives telling me how difficult they found it to get their meetings properly full of vibrant, concerned, committed, angry students. And I only mention this because Loughborough's Students' Union is the greenest students' union in the UK. It won that prize at the end of last year. So this is the best students' union in the UK, telling me that their main problem is getting enough students to come to their meetings, to do all the things they want to do around campus, to transform some of the processes in that university to put it onto a more sustainable path. Without anger, I don't think much will happen. So whatever else our advocacy should consist of, I'm pretty damn certain it should consist of encouraging an awful lot of people to be an awful lot more angry than they are today. And expressing that anger wherever they can, particularly to people in positions of power and influence. Which is a good thing I'm coming off the SBC. So, the second thing, to change the tone a moment, is to come back to Tim's opening comment. I'm struck by a really wonderful bit of viral communication that is going on at the moment. 6 years ago, 2 American writers on the environmental world in America, guys called Sheldon and Nordhaus, wrote a book called The Death of Environmentalism. And on page 1 of the death of environmentalism. There's a really interesting little anecdote, which many of you will have heard before now, which simply says Martin Luther King did not do what he did by going around the world telling people he had a nightmare. He did it by telling people that he had a dream. In the last 6 months, I've heard that little story, a little saga, a tiny little insight into psychological transformation from a lot of people. And suddenly it's out and about. And partly we're saying it because I suspect still in our movement, as Tim painfully reminded us, we know that the power of our dystopian visions, historically, has always outweighed the power of our positive visions. Historically, we've just been better at the negative stuff than we have at the good stuff. That's one of the consequences of our historical legacy. And one of the things that made Richard such an unbelievably important mentor for many of us was that he would constantly challenge that route to transformation in society. What possible hope have we got if we can't summon up positive visions of a better world as powerfully as we have historically summoned up these dystopian visions? So there is a huge onus on us collectively now to do a better job in articulating these visions of a better world. And I think it's intriguing and really humbling in some ways to see how many of the organizations at the community level, grassroots level here in the UK, are just effortlessly going to that place. I go to quite a lot of transition town movements, to sort of movement meetings to see what's kind of happening and get a feel for where that energy is going. They don't spend a huge amount of time banging people's heads against the reality of climate change or people. They get through all that stuff quite quickly. And then they invite people to bring their energy into that collective space off the back of fashioning and designing visions and practice for a better world. It is by and large a more powerful way of doing it. So there's something about this whole need to create better models of what a better world looks like, and to celebrate the work of those already engaged in that process. I think our collective movement is getting better at the celebratory bit, but I still wonder whether it's as deeply embedded in our collective psyche as it needs to be. I think we're probably still better at wakes